Okay, embedded if statements, one of my favorites. Very, very powerful tool that you have as a piece of Excel. So what are embedded if statements? Well, embedded if statements are an add-on or a special methodology of using just regular if statements. If you recall, an if statement's broken down into three parts. That would be the logical test, here you go, the value of true, and the value of false. So if statements are one of the many logic-based functions built into Excel. Now let me zoom in a little bit here just to make it a little bit easier for you to see. We'll zoom in just a little bit. So let me give you a little bit of a scenario here. So we have a little bit of a data set of flights. We have flight 100 through flight 104. In column C, you have the number of passengers available. In column D, you have the total capacity of that plane. So let's just look at a regular if statement first and see what that can do. Well, here's what we're going to say. We're going to say, well, if the number of passengers is less than the capacity of the plane, then the flight is available. And remember, when you're using words with if statements, you have to put those words in double quotation marks. Only words, not numbers. Okay? So the next thing we're going to say is, well, if that argument isn't true, then the flight is full. We close that off. Oops. And it tells us that the flight's available. Now we referenced, right? So if I make that change to 310, the flight is full and everything is good. However, if you look at what this question's asking us, we don't have two variables that you can answer. We don't have the options of just available or full. We also have the option of overbooked. Oh, now that's a problem because that is a second set of logic. Okay, when you use a regular if statement, you have two logical arguments. It's either yes or no. It's kind of very, very basic, binary. It's either a 1 or a 0. But in this particular case, it's not binary because there's a third option. It's available, full, or booked. Available, full, or booked, or excuse me, overbooked. Okay, so how do you go about combating that? How do you go through and add a second set of logic to an if statement, or a third or a fourth for that matter? Well, that's where the embedded if statement comes into play. So let me show you how easy this is. However, it can become very complicated pretty quickly. So let's just start off with the basic that we said before. Well, we'll say if the number of passengers is less than the capacity of the plane, then they have seats available. Now at this point, if you were writing a regular if statement, you would put in the value of false and you would be complete. Here's where the embedded if statement starts to fly. Instead of putting in a value of false, what am I going to do? I'm going to start a whole nother if statement. Whoops. I'm going to start a whole nother if statement. And when I do, look at what that does. It gives me the ability to throw in a second logical test. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to say if the number of passengers is greater than the capacity of the plane, well, then the plane is overbooked. Well, that's no good. Now, at this point, could I start another if statement? Yes, I can. I could go in and add another one. However, remember, if statements have a value of true and value of false, okay? So I've got three variables that I can have, either available, full, or overbooked. So yes, I could start another if statement, but I don't need to because I still have the value if false, which is that third variable. So if it's not available and it's not overbooked, then it can only be full. I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to close it off. Now, there's something special when you use an embedded statement or a nested function in Excel. Notice that when I put the right parentheses, which is the equivalent of a period at the end of a sentence in, instead of putting in 1, I'm going to add in 1 right parentheses for every function I've written. So I put in 2. Now, if you need some help, it's actually color-coded. So I've got green and green, and the last one is always going to be black. It starts off with black, so you have to have black at the end. So if you need that help to start off with, then you need to go ahead and plug that in. Now, here's what happens if you forget. I'm going to purposely make a mistake here. It's going to say, hey, you did something wrong. Excel, just like with any other error, is going to try to fix it, and it may get it, and it may not. In this particular case, it probably will, and it did, and there we have it. So now if we fill down, Look at that. Everything was automatically set up for us. We're good to go. Well, that is embedded if statements with Excel. Now, on the docket, things to think about. There are more than just embedded if statements. There are modified if statements as well. So you have if and. So if the flight is taking off on Tuesday and the flight is overbooked, okay, you have if and or. If the flight is on Tuesday or if the flight is overbooked, okay? You even have if and not, okay? So if it does not open up on a Tuesday, then this is something that you can do. So just keep that on your docket. There are a lot of things that you can do with nested functions in Excel, especially embedded if statements. They can become very, very complicated. So for now, try this on your own. Practice a little bit with the files available for you online, and we'll see you back again with the next lesson.